right. It's December 1st. Holy cow. December frickin' 1st. Oh, seems like yesterday was too hot. Way too hot, way too bright in the water all day long, grinding away, catching fish in the heat. Time flies. Time frickin' flies, man. Man, time flies. So I always encourage people, do what you love to do, right? Make sure you do what you love to do. Number one, make sure you do what you love to do. And be healthy. Now, another bone-piercing wet chill out there this morning. I don't know what's going on in my yard last night, but I'm gonna throw some trail cameras around. I don't even know how I slept through it. I slept through it like a brick. He didn't even twitch, but Sarah said that the dog, Ruby, was going absolutely aggro, ape shit. First she said she was sniffing the bedroom window, started going bonks, and then she raced to the back door and was going, "Arr!" Why didn't I wake up? What's up with that? So, obviously, that was her something real bad is out there. Attitude, was it a bear? Maybe. Is it going to be back? We'll see. So I'll put some trail cameras out today around the typical places around the property where, if something's here, where it's coming in, and see if it's going to be an issue. If it is, I'll take care of it. Now, checked my inbox this morning. There is no law enforcement contacts at all emailing me and chiming in to me about the hundreds of thousands of children gone missing. No surprise, I guess. Oh, did I bring it up again? Oh, man, I brought it up again. What a dick, right? Brought it up again about kids going missing and nobody giving a shit. Weird. Now, got a big long list of recents and older ones. And we got Adventure Dog doing what she loves most, having her morning routine with me in here. I think she got an elk bone this morning. I don't know how they get the marrow out. It's so deep in the end of the bone. Like both ends of a bone I cut the other day. It's amazing how deep they can actually get that marrow out while working at it, right? Okay, what do we got? Who do we got? More voices. This is titled, well, it's titled Red now. This is titled, Most Knowledgeable, No Bullshit People I've Met Who Know As Much About Sasquatch as Anyone. All right. Steve, greetings from Alaska, now living in Nashville. That's a drastic change, huh? When I was 12, backpacking in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado, my sixth sense activated. Felt like we were being watched. I got up, put wood on the fire. Made a show of my .22 rifle. My father and other adults were asleep, and after I got into the tent, I heard someone walking around. I asked the adult next day who was up. It wasn't them. This started my research for information. Wow. My humble suggestions. Alright, so you're promoting a couple channels. Gotcha. Might look into it. Here's another channel. Alright, so you email in promoting a bunch of YouTube channels. Gotcha. Gotcha. Don't know who they are, what they're about, so I don't promote them right off the get-go, right? Now, like I said, there's people want to be on here for different reasons, right? There's people that just want to be a YouTuber. I want people to follow me. I want to be an influencer. Not me. Yes, maybe some people might consider me that. I don't frickin' know, but I've never asked anybody to come here ever. Everybody's out here on their own free will, treated with respect. And myself and people that need to be watched, we got nothing in common. Nothing. Nothing at all. Oh, these suckers. There we go. These ones fit better. Now, Bigfoot is the title of this next email. Stephen O., it's your hunting season up there, and you and you got to get shit done. I hope I have the right email address and get a hold of you. Our bow season starts in 4 weeks. It is so hot here in Central Florida, by the time you field dress the deer and get it to the truck, it's almost ready to eat. No doubt. This time of year, you stage a good cooler with ice, and as soon as you get a buck field dressed, you pack its guts with bags of ice and wrap it in a tarp. You pack its gut, and get that meat chilling just as fast as you can. I want to take a minute and tell you about my first encounter with a Bigfoot. It was fall of '82, and we would normally be at hunt camp, but my best friend had just retired from the Navy, and when we were young, we had fixed up an old cabin out in a swamp called Philman's Bayou. It's on the coast of Central Florida, on the Hernando Pasco, Colorado line, and a nightmare to get in or out of at low tide. This old shack was built in the '40s to shelter the mullet fishermen. If they got stuck out there on low tide, my friend and I discovered This old shack was built in the '40s to shelter the mullet fishermen if they got stuck out there on low tide. My friend and I discovered it in 1972, and whenever he was home on leave, he would go camp there and fish and drink. On that October day in '82, we had the boat loaded down with tools and material to repair the camp and get it watertight again. We'd not been out there for a few years. We were racing to beat the tide, did not quite make it, and had to get out and drag the boat to shore. To get into the cabin, you got to go up a small creek about 100 yards. It comes out of a natural fresh water spring. When we were about 40 yards from the camp, the smell was so bad, I did not want to keep going. But it was a 4-mile walk back to the truck through the swamp muck. When we got to the cabin site, I was shocked to see what we had found. There's at least 50 or 60 dead mullet with what appeared to be the bellies bit out of them. Flies and maggots everywhere, and huge piles of shit. I said, F this place, I'm walking back. Ray started giving me shit, and he said it would not take long to clean it up and start building a fire. I got busy drinking. We had rakes and shovels and plenty of building materials, so within about 6 hours, the place was coming together. It got dark around 6 p.m., and by then we had quit working and was cooking some food, and about 9:30 it was pitch black. And we could hear somebody walking in that small stream. I thought it was someone that was stuck in the bayou, and saw the fire. The footsteps were loud and stopped behind some big mangroves. I was shining the light all over there, but I could not see a thing. In Florida, you can leave home without your American Express, but you better have your damn gun, and we did. I had a .357, and Ray had a 12 gauge, and as I was yelling and trying to get someone to answer me, a huge rock came flying through the air and hit the fire. And flames and sparks went everywhere. Woo. So, I put 2 rounds right over their heads. I said to the person, if he threw another rock that size, he was a dead man. As I was walking towards the thick mangroves, drew down, the next rock came straight at me, barely missed me, and hit the side of the cabin. That pissed me off, and I headed in. I got about 10 feet from the mangroves because I wanted to see this dude to beat his ass. Well, that did not happen. The growl was deafening. It was like I could feel it through my body. I thought it was a huge black bear, and I ran back to the cabin and prepared for the fight. In other words, I about shit my pants. While this had been going on, Ray had already stoked the fire and it was growing large. It seemed like an hour, but it was less than 30 seconds. The thing moved south past the spring and into the deep swamp. We could hear that thing walking for 15 minutes. Ray or I did not sleep at all that night. We kept the fire blazing. By 5 a.m. the tide was high and the plan was to catch a limited fish, but we shagged ass. We went straight to the truck. I've never went back there. Ray got into some shit in the Navy that destroyed his body. I'm not sure what it was, some kind of chemical. The Navy gave him a nice funeral and a small plot of land in a graveyard. We only spoke with that a few times over the 2.5 years he lived, and right before he passed, I read him a story I'd found about Bigfoot throwing rocks. We decided that's what it had to be. Many years later, I found out in Florida, Bigfoot are migratory and pass through there. Take care, Steve. You take care too, my man. Appreciate you sending that in. I'm sorry to hear about your friend getting murdered from the military. That sucks ass. Sucks ass big time. There you go. Aggro, pissed off, hairy being, but not aggro and pissed off enough to strike you with anything, right? No subject. Tell us email. If you can, don't use my last name. Call me John. This is my sighting, and I grew up hunting at an early age and hunted all small and large game when I was in my teens. I started trapping. This is where my passion to become a top predator. So started hunting coyote and foxes, where I was able to get within feet of a coyote. So I decided to take a 2-week trapping trip to northern New York. No punctuation, all right? I made it to where I was going to trap, had my canoe loaded with my gun and gear. I paddled for 5 hours till I set my first line of traps. Next day, went about 8 miles north of that line. This is where it gets weird. When I was setting, the woods felt calm and quiet. I finished my set, made my way to the creek, set camp that night. It felt like something was watching me. In the morning, I went up creek just to hunt, and about dusk, I heard a loud whoop. Never heard anything like it. Got to my canoe, spent the night in it, floating in the middle of the creek. When I made it to my last set, I recovered my traps and what I caught, set up camp at the creek that night. Something was watching my camp the next day. My food bag was gone after hanging it 15 feet in a tree. That day is where I changed my look on what is the top predator. What the top predator is. As I sat at camp, this creature kept its distance. I thought it might be a poacher, so I went full stealth mode. Went downwind, sneaking to see if it was a poacher. As I found high ground and was watching this creature, stood up about 100 yards from me, knew where I was, let out this low grunt snort and disappeared. It followed me till I made it back to the creek. It was warning another. It moved through the woods with no sound for a creature 8 feet tall. To be that quiet amazed me. Dark red hair, the smell of wet dog, or musky smells in the area, and I don't hunt as much because of this. End of story. That's a little unnerving, right? Every time, it's never really that much of a cozy thing. It's not like nobody gets the instant urge to make him a sandwich and invite him into camp for the night, do they? Why is that? Why is that? How's that one? Is that a good chunk of bone this morning there, puppy dog? To be so content with something so simple, right? Throw a chunk of bone in front of me and I'll wrap my legs around it and chew on it forever. Happy. Simple way to be happy, isn't it? My story of the Momo. Didn't I read this? Yeah, I did. Read it. It's marked as read. We got another email, unread email from Scott Carpenter. I'm going to read it, and it's a volley, I think. Is it? No, there's one in here. One email. Scrolling down. Which one came first here? Hold on, you guys. Sorry. All right. So I think this was one of the first times he emailed. I'm a good friend and associate of Dave P. and have worked with him for almost 10 years. Sounds like you've been looking into some that I have and came to similar conclusions. I know you're extremely busy, but after hunting season early next year, you got some time like to talk about what they are and all the crazy shit that goes on around them. I would be glad to talk with you if you're interested. And the next email is from me, I believe. Hi, Scott. Thank you. I'm just home. Maybe the 6th day in, at the last 60, packing to fly out to the Yukon on Saturday. I'm crazy busy. One just ran through the back 2 weeks ago on a Tuesday night. They frequent the area I live in intensely. The usual items are of no interest to me now. It's the root of it all that drives me nuts. Why they are so disciplined to avoid eye contact with us at all costs. What was the original deal, and who made it to keep them avoiding us? It's too confusing. The big picture is the mystery, not these beings. They are too easy to accept. Keeping the majority population smart as a stick is what is and has been clearly going down for some time now. It's quite alarming, to say the least. Anyway, I could babble, but zero time. Amazing how fast it burns. We'll talk one day. Thanks for the note, Steve. Where was I going? This is in 2019. I was packing to fly out to the Yukon. All right. Sheep hunting. Then we got another email back. Long one from Scott. Steve, I figured you're very busy this time of year. I understand what you mean by root of it all. The question I've struggled with since I first fell into this craziness. Since your time's at a premium, I will tell you the short version of what I think they are based on my worldview, evidence research, and personal experience. I am sure each of the following statements will create 50 more questions, but it'll give you an idea of where I am at concerning these beings. All right, here we go. They are a human hybrid. Their DNA is a mix of female mitochondrial DNA and an unknown male father. Based on your last video, you already figured out we are dealing with a high intellect that understands who and what we are, including our technology, language, etc. They have abilities that we do not understand, a knowledge of the natural world and how to manipulate it to do things we consider supernatural. They are descendants of a race of people known as the Nephilim. This name that means fallen or earthbound. The Nephilim were the offspring of angels who rebelled against God and against his command and procreated with human women to have their own children. This blending of the angelic and human created a race of giants and other crazy hybrids. Due to their genetic makeup, they retain some abilities and knowledge from their angelic fathers. I'm leaving out a bunch, but this short version is getting long. I can fill in the rest sometime later on a call or via email, which is whatever you prefer. As you have found, they seem to have a set of rules they follow. Who made the rules? And who enforces the rules? That is the question. Sometimes they break the rules, but not very often. The interesting thing is, while they hide themselves, faces and eyes... While they hide themselves, faces and eyes from adult men, they can and do show themselves openly to women and children, at times interacting freely with them. There's a definite spiritual component to these beings. I have personally experienced it along with other people I know that have dealt with them. Too much to explain in an email. They have genetic diversity, and they do at times interbreed with humans. Just like us, their motives and emotions vary. If they are what I think they are, then they are malevolent and being restrained by a spiritual force. I do think that they have free will, and at times I have dealt with people that have seen the malevolent side of them, and it can be terrifying. Just to let you know, since you actively sought them out, you may have given them permission to directly interact with you. This is one of the rules, and this means they can show up at your home or anywhere else you are at. They aggravated the crap out of me. I could not even go deer hunting without being followed around and them ruining the hunt for me. It appears they in general leave you alone, and that is good. Depending on the level of interaction, one can actually feel them. Don't ask me to explain, I can't, but these things have zapped me, hit me with infrasound, and attempted to communicate with me in nonverbal ways. I think because of this, there is a sensitivity to them. In my opinion, the reason for governments and the establishment to hide their assistance is money and protecting the current Darwinian paradigm. There is a definite spiritual reason for suppressing their existence, and that is to hide God. The proof and realization of their existence supports the biblical narrative of giants and angels, etc. Why are they so reclusive? SEAL Team 6 on steroids is what Dave P. is fond of saying. It could be the fallen angels not wanting them to be revealed. God protecting us from them. Combination of the two. This conversation is a rabbit hole. Excuse me. This conversation is a rabbit hole issue that would take away way more time to flesh out than one can in an email. Well, that's the short version. This is a complicated matter. There are really no short or easy answers. If we get a chance to talk in the future, I can go into details deeper down the rabbit hole. I enjoy your videos, and they are very informative, and I appreciate your defense of those who've had experiences with the Sasquatch. Regards, Scott. Rest in peace, my man. I'm sure he's hanging out here with us listening. Nothing new there in that email at this stage of the game for us to hear, though, is there? But it's an unread email. Share it. Share it again. Take from what you will or leave it. But don't blow a gasket. Don't blow a gasket! If anybody has the trigger to blow a gasket, maybe do it about the missing children. Oh shit, I brought it up again. Who's this from? I don't know, but it's recent. Puzzle solved. Fallen angels. Watchers. Giants now. Sabe is the title of this email. Greetings, Steve and community followers. The How to Hunt channel on YouTube. For whatever reason, you may or not accept the fact that Sabe are demons. And they are the descendants of the fallen angels and or the Watchers. Nephilim are giant men created through the union of fallen angels and earthly women with the Watchers, angels, that fell from God's grace. If you are a Christian and believe in God and angel and Lucifer and demons, then you have your answer what the Sabe are. It's not the big puzzle you're making out to be. You're just refusing the fact of the Torah, i.e. the Bible. The answers are there. You don't need to search for them. Frankly, you are calling God, Jesus Christ, a liar. If you do not believe, all right, no threats here, no belittling. You're off the team. Sorry, done. Don't pass go. We offer up knowledge here. We offer up different views, knowledge, and we accept everyone's view and everyone's knowledge, and we tell each other, take it or leave it. But the second somebody comes on here and tries to motivate by guilt, you're out. Done. See ya. In my lifetime, what I've learned is one of the worst things, violations, one of them, there's a lot, but one of the worst violations I've witnessed and been a victim of in life is when someone intentionally attempts to make another feel guilt. Me? That's a punch in the face move. That's how I see that. Next. Now, who's next? What do we got? Oops. And no, I'm not trying to block anything biblical or any of the word from God. Never have. I am blocking someone who goes straight into trying to motivate us with guilt. Ain't gonna work here. I hope and I pray for you. I hope you become more enlightened with knowledge and acceptance in your lifetime. Now, hi. I found your videos through a link on Coast to Coast AM about a month or so ago. I've been watching them ever since. I've never been on Coast to Coast, I don't think, have I? The story takes place in Indiana. But I spent quite a lot of time in British Columbia. I have some friends that live in West Van. My son, 11, and I house sit for them last fall. We were in BC for about 6 weeks and took day trips up to Whistler just to check things out. My backyard. Anyway, like I said, this story takes place in Indiana. South Central Indiana. We live close to a town called Bloomington of IU basketball fame, Bobby Knight, etc. John Mellencamp lives here too. I grew up about 4 doors down from his studio. No shit. This takes place in the summer of 2016. I remember cruising around in my 65 Nova with the windows rolled down and John Mellencamp booming out the windows. I was like 19 or something. We live about 15 minutes from a town nestled in Yellowwood State Forest. And to the south of us is the Hoosier National Forest, which is about 200,000 scattered acres across Lake Monroe. My son and I were on our way back and grabbing a bite to eat. There's this place we often stop off to hike or just listen, have a picnic, or just listen to a podcast and watch nature. I was on the phone with his mom. She lives out of state. We were organizing for our son to go with her for a bit. And as we're getting the details sorted out, we were eating a pint of butter pecan ice cream. I'm on the phone and my son is looking out over this large field and he says, "Papa, look, there's a guy out there." My instinct was, whoop-de-doo. I didn't even look over. Then I looked and saw that there was a guy in some sparsely planted corn, his head over the top of the corn stalks. My son said again, "He's walking over here." I looked up and about 300 yards out, he had moved into this clearing. And I saw the guy. He looked like he was wearing some shaggy fur. He walked closer in to about 200 yards, and he looked like he had a Chewbacca outfit on. Then whatever it was started running at us and got into about 100 yards, fast. I got a better look at it and took note of its look more than anything. It was a rush that it was coming toward us, but also a bit humorous because it looked almost exactly like Chewbacca, minus the utility belt attire, just hairy in a similar way. At a distance, I assumed it had some sort of furry outfit on, which was weird for that time of year because it was ungodly hot. We ran and got into the car, and by the time we were pulling out of there, it was almost to us. I'd say 30 yards when we sped out of there. Crazy, huh? No, so weird. Hold on a minute. There we go. What a weird thing to do. Hey, there's a guy and a kid. I better rush him. And then the next day, do absolutely whatever you can do to hide from the same human beings or another one. Don't make sense, does it? That's a delicious sounding bone, isn't it? You ever notice that? Dogs make bones sound delicious and horses make hay sound absolutely delicious when they eat it. I went back and stopped off to see my nephew. He's 6'4" and very interested in strange sightings and so on. And he went back with me to the spot the next day. I had him walking that corn at the exact location. There wasn't much of it, so it was easy to find the exact spot. And his head was well below the corn stalks. Whatever that thing was, it had to have been at least 8 or 9 feet tall. I had him go into the clearing and run. He couldn't cover the ground like that thing could, even at his full speed. It took him a long time to get back to where I was standing. If I had to guess, I'd say that thing was doing 25 to 30 miles per hour. I thought maybe it was a prankster with a furry suit on, but if that were true, it would have to be heavy and would make it impossible to get going that fast. Even an athlete would be over-encumbered with a suit on like that. It was very humanoid. Even during the entire experience, I thought it was a guy. Only when we returned with my nephew and did size and distance and speed comparisons did I start feeling kind of weirded out. Its form, when it was running, was exactly like a man's. It didn't seem ape at all. It ran like an Olympian athlete. My son, came back up and confirmed everything sorry guys. My son, there's a couple typos. My son came back up and confirmed everything in this story. I'd like to remain anonymous. We'll probably be heading back out to BC in the somewhat near future. We do some hiking around Squamish and Whistler. You ever go to the blank brewery in Squamish? They have awesome brewery. No, I don't. I don't hang out in breweries. I don't really. Beer's not my thing. Keep up the great work on the channel. All right, man. Appreciate that share. And now that you've seen one, keep in the back of your head, you're probably going to run into them again. And especially if you're going around Squamish, Whistler, my little backyard, it's probably going to go down again. Just don't be too surprised, right? Don't be too surprised. There you go. Quote, wasn't ape-like at all, end quote. Said another one. This next email is titled White-tailed Deer. Hi, Steve. My name is Danny James. I was 82 this January 7th. Right on, Mr. James. I don't give a shit what you're going to talk about. I want to read it. You're 82? I want to read it. Just for that fact. Why? Because our elder members have a wealth of knowledge and experience in life, right? My wife and I are both the same age. And up till a year ago, we're residents of Florida for the 10 years prior to that. We spent many of those years out in our boat on Lake Griffin fishing for bass, bluegill, red ear, and crappie. Prior to moving to Florida, we lived all our lives in Indiana. I retired from Cummins Diesel Engine Co. in Columbus, Indiana, with 30 years since seniority at age 48. Then did a lot of various things to make a living after that, including running a farm repair welding shop for 23 years, until I ended up with three total hip replacement surgeries. 3 surgeries, not 3 hips. I've hunted and fished all of my life, as long as I was able. I've hunted everything in Indiana, from rabbit, squirrels, quail, grouse, whitetail, and fox. I've trapped muskrat and mink in my younger days. Excuse me. We've fished and camped from Florida, Ontario, Canada, including upstate New York. One Thanksgiving morning in the 70s, I was hunting white-tailed deer just about half a mile from our house with a 45 cal muzzle-loading rifle. I was walking down a logging road to where I was going to watch a deer trail, when from about a quarter mile north of me, it sounded like a couple of dogs were trailing something. I figured they were probably on a deer. So I got behind a big tree beside the logging road and waited. And as it sounded like they were coming right toward me. And as luck would have it, there was a 7-point buck with his nose almost right in a doe's butt, and there were some dogs running them. It sounded like they were not far behind. I aimed my 45 cal muzzleloader with round ball right at the buck's chest, next to his left shoulder as they were coming straight toward me and never saw me. And when I shot, he never flinched and ran right past me with no sign they'd been hit. He's only about 10 yards from me when I pulled the trigger, and I'm a good shot. When he got about 100 yards past me and down in the hollow, he, to my surprise, stopped and turned and started fighting those 2 dogs. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So I quickly reloaded that old muzzleloader, and while the buck was broadside to me, I held about 2 inches over his back and shot again. Again, he did not act like he was hit and took off. Yep, I know you said they don't do that, but he ran right up a steep hill. Just as he got almost to the top, about 100 yards, he reared up on his hind legs and fell over dead. Yeah, it's crazy, he went uphill. Very, very, very rarely do they go uphill if it's lethal, right? By this time, the dogs had took off and were gone. I guess at the gunshot. I went up the hill and got out my knife and got him. Covered him up with brush and walked down to our house and got my International 300 utility farm tractor and went back up in the woods and threw the buck over the hood and went home with my deer. We raised 5 kids, and we were glad to get the meat, as we ate a lot of wild game and fish at our house. So do we. Now there's more to the story. When we skinned him out to cool, I saw my first shot had in fact hit him, and the round ball broke his left front shoulder, nicked its heart, and kept on going and lodged under the skin next to his right hip. It's a pretty good shot. His second shot hit in the chest behind his left leg, and through both lungs, and lodged under the skin on his right side. By the time he got to the top of the hill, he had about completely bled out. Wow, that's crazy. You got to admit that it's not often one gets a second shot with a single-shot muzzleloading rifle. No, they don't. That's not the last time that I've hit a deer in the heart and had to run. One other time I had literally pulverized the heart and it still ran. Yeah, they usually do when the heart's shot. They really go into panic. So, My life doesn't have the exciting big game stories that you have had, but even so, I can tell lots of stories from 82 years, and I wish I could sit with you and hear them all. Now that we are old, I truly am so very glad that I ran across your stories, as they sure help me pass the time away, as I'm no longer able to really get out and fish or hunt anymore. I finally had to give up fishing a year ago, when for health reasons, we moved back to Indiana to be around family, so we feel blessed. I love your Bigfoot stories too. Like you, I don't know what it is that you're seeing, but I do believe that you and your friends are seeing something. I have my own ideas what I think it is you have seen, and I suspect that you do too, and I believe it is not of this world. For what it's worth, Satan was the most beautiful angel in heaven, but he wanted to take over and be a god. So when God put Satan out of heaven, a third of the angels, which numbered as many as the stars, fell from heaven with him. My opinion is that they are busy here on earth and are able to move in and out of a dimension that we cannot see into. Just my humble opinion. You may have figured out by now that my wife and I are Christians, and we put our faith in Jesus as our Lord and Savior, and because of that, plus nothing else, we know we will go to heaven when we die, the physical death. God has promised that if we truly repent our sins and believe in His only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, and accept Him and trust in Him, that we will have everlasting life. God only created two places for us to spend eternity, heaven or hell. The choice is ours. Keep up the good work and stories, even the ones about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Regards, Danny. Did you say to read your name? Yep, Danny James. Danny, absolutely appreciate your valuable time you donated here to the people. It's a crazy deer story. Enjoyed reading it. Whitetail can be tough. They're haywire. I call them like static energy animals, whitetail, compared to all the other game. They're just hyper static, nervous creatures. Very hyper. All right, here we go. Who's next? Haven't a clue. Oop, is there 2 emails here? Looks like there's 2 emails here in one folder, so... All right. Okay, you included one with it. Dear How to Hunt. First of all, I want to thank you for what you're doing. It is wonderful, and I have 2 stories. One in December 2007. I was a junior in college at the University of the South in Sewanee, Texas. It was during exams week, and I had been studying like crazy. I just left the library and headed back to my dorm room at about 11 p.m., and I ran into my roommate, who I hadn't seen in several days. We're good friends. And we were really wired from studying all day, so we decided to go buy some beer and drive down to this farmer's field to do some donuts in my roommate's Toyota 4Runner. We buy the beer and then drive to the field. Now, to explain exactly where we were is important. The university we were attending owns a domain of 11,000 acres, and this sits on top of a very flat mountain of only several hundred feet in elevation. Surrounding this mountain, or high plateau, is nothing but rural farmland, and the university itself only has a student population of about 2,500 people, so the area is sparsely populated. There are a lot of cliffs and caves in this area. Rock climbing and spelunking are very popular in this area. So we buy the beer and then drive down into the valley below, descending off the mountain down the very steep road of hairpin turns and switchbacks. We get to the field, do some donuts, drink some beer, then we start to head back up the mountain. As we come around one of the hairpin turns in the road, our headlights sweep over a Bigfoot. There it is in the road. Head, no neck, really wide shoulders, thick legs, hairy. It quickly steps out of the road, but is staring right at us. It effortlessly stepped out of the road and got behind a tree and did the head poke around the tree as our lights passed over it. This happened very, very quickly. I say nothing. My roommate says nothing. We drive in total silence for a moment, and finally I say to my roommate, "Did you see that?" He said, "Yeah, I saw it, and I don't want to talk about it." Said another one. My roommate to this day really does not like to talk about what we saw, but he was in town earlier this summer and we talked about it. I've told many people this story and obviously no one believes me. They say, oh, well, you already admitted you were drinking, so you were just drunk, blah, blah, blah. I've told my first cousin's story many times, and this summer when my roommate came to town, I had my cousin ask him about it. Without hesitation, my roommate described what we saw exactly as I described it to my cousin without hesitation. After my roommate left town, I asked my cousin what he thought about what my roommate had told him. My cousin completely denied ever speaking with my roommate. Pathetic. That's a scared boy. That's a scared boy. Brutal. I'm an avid bear hunter, deer hunter, turkey hunter, etc. I was born and live on a 1,400-acre farm. I spend all my time in the woods. I know what a bear looks like when it stands on two legs, and yes, I've seen black bears walk on two legs. I know what I saw. It was not a bear. Number 2. In the summer 2018, I was at my friend's house one night. We were just hanging out on the porch, grilling burgers, and this is in Marietta, South Carolina. It is around 11 p.m. I start hearing Bigfoot howls. I've never heard a noise like this before in my life, nor have I since. The dog started to whimper, and the cicadas and crickets even went quiet. This is in rural-ass South Carolina. The noise is frightening and bone-chilling. Deep, long howls and woofs. Yet, strangely enough, if you were not paying attention, you would not have heard it. And I'm not sure if that makes sense. It's like it was on a noise level of its own. It made my friend start listening, and it scared him so bad, he made us go into the house and lock the door. This is my first Bigfoot experience in South Carolina, and I got on the blank website and was looking around South Carolina, and no shit if someone did not have the same damn story I did from a place only about a half a mile away. But from the summer of 1985. Okay, so then he cut and pasted the story from somebody from that website. All good, we got it. Same thing happened, we got it, my man. We really appreciate you sending that in. Another member. How big is this club? How big is the club of no return, right? This next email, no title. Got some photos, though. This is the last weekend of the general hunting season. I'm not even sure what year. This is on property I own in North Florida. It's crazy cold this weekend for Florida. Barely above freezing all week. These tracks went for over 2 miles down to the river. These tracks went back and forth, up and down the river, and the mussel shells were everywhere. I'll try to add on the pictures of the guy that lives just south of my property. He lost 7 goats, torn apart, and for the most part, eaten. This is in Gilchrist County, Florida. Gilchrist County, Florida, north of Bell on 129 and south of Bradford. The folks around here are scared to death that someone is going to hurt one of these beings. There's a natural gas transmission line, actually 4 of them buried, going north and south. They travel that. These folks put out food, water, and mineral licks, huge pots of beans and peanuts. They let the beans and peanuts sour in the pots a few days, then they take them out of there. The food is always ate. If there's not a camera strapped to a tree, they will not even come close to a game cam. The pots are taken care of. Not like you or I would do it, but hung on a branch. There's probably 12 miles east and west and maybe 15 miles north and south in this area with no real houses or farms. Hard to believe in Florida. I've had them walk with me out of the woods after dark and never felt threatened. Anytime. They stay about 50 to 75 feet from you. Excuse me, and it's close to 2 miles back to camp. I sing and whistle, and I feel totally safe. They are not here to hurt us. We are full-blown stupid to not learn from them. I will never, and I mean never, sell my property as long as I think these woodsy folks need it. I like having them around, much more than I need a few bucks. That'll just piss away. And one last thing, that soil was hard. I know it's sand, but it was like rock. Take note how deep the tracks dug in. Take care, Steve. These tracks are huge. This is North Gilchrist County, about a mile south of the Santa Fe River. The tracks were headed north. There are two different sizes. I have pics of that as well. I'll send them to you. All right, here's the pictures. Flat-footed. There you go. Interesting, right? A group of compassionate human beings toward these hairy beings. Want to protect them and feed them. Sounds like an ongoing working relationship to me, right? Although the majority of people out there who are in the know say, don't feed them. Don't feed them. There you go. There you go. Lots more to think about. Add to the collection. Take from what you will, leave it, right? I gotta get on with my day. But before I go, I was thinking the other day, I've been thinking a lot lately, actually, especially since this time of year when I'm really ramping up to feed the hungry little ones, which there is so many. There is so many. Just in my backyard. Super ladies, my First Nation super ladies, came over yesterday, unexpected, brought some money donations and some food to throw down for the kids for this month. Very appreciative of that. And I've been bringing up a lot about the missing children, the real big number of the missing children going on, and how it's absolutely mind-boggling how we've been conditioned to not really give it any attention when, meanwhile, every single citizen of a community should be dropping everything they are doing, shutting down everything in society, and finding these kids. It's a lot of tears, isn't it? 357,000. I wonder how many gallons that is in tears, to try to put it another way. How many gallons? I wonder how many gallons of child tears that represents. You ever think about it that way? But anyway, excuse me. Those kind of numbers, that is very dark, sinister, and you have to be very powerful and very influential to be able to pull that off here in North America. Agreed? Don't you think? Think about it. Yeah, I'm bringing it up again. To pull that off, even to pull off, 100 kids today in North America, and absolutely fly clean under the radar without a hint. You're connected to some very influential and powerful people to be able to pull that off, I believe. Prove me wrong. On that note, okay, as I dig deeper, trying to find the answers to this shit and hunt these children down, possibly. Now, what are some other clues we have that it may be some very connected, influential, strong powers? Well, who encouraged all of these hundreds of thousands of people to migrate? Who was it? Well, we can look at the two young journalists, independent journalists. I shared their video on here once. I should probably do it every day. And I do not have a clue why this video, this film, hasn't been put in front of everybody's eyes every hour, by the hour, every day. But when you look at the video, so these guys, they took the trek, I believe from South America, all the way up to the border of Texas. They took the same trek. The video documented it. And along the way of that trek, they've got the video evidence, was maps. Maps were installed on huge billboards along that entire trek by the UN. The UN. were putting out maps and pointing to the best routes to get across the border to the U.S. illegally. The UN was doing it, promoted it. The UN, because they care about so many people globally, the UN was promoting and encouraging families with any age of babies and young children to travel through jungles, illegally cross through borders, through jungles, past bandits, human traffickers, murderers, gangsters. The UN encouraged families to blindly go up this route from South America onward upward to the border of Texas, more. And the trail was littered with dead bodies. Humans dying along that trail to get to that destination with hopes and dreams of crossing illegally into another country. The UN had, it's all video proof. They got the proof. They showed the world. That's not on mainstream news. Why not? If I could, I'm going to, once no internet in here yet. Shit! My new cable for the Starlink will get here, I think, in a few days. Drives me bonkers. But before I post this video, I will find that video and I will put a link to it again, possibly in the comment section below or the video description below, and we'll post it up and encourage all you to watch it again and look for evidence along that route of, well, if we got a few 100,000 kids gone missing from that debacle, and we realize that to be able to pull off those many souls, innocent souls being taken, possibly fed to some beast somewhere, you got to be pretty connected. You got to be pretty powerful, and you probably should be able to be in contact with whoever manipulates the radar to watch for this shit. Who would fit that description? I don't know. Let's check out that video those young journalists made, taking the hike themselves, and see if there's any evidence there. Oh, it's in your face. The evidence is in your face. Who's responsible? Potentially. More like obviously. The UN. The UN. Who encourages people with nothing to drag their babies, their young children, through jungles and forests, through borders of various countries, through child human traffickers, murderers, kidnappers, bandits, criminals? Who encourages families to do that? We're not going to stop here. We're going to keep going. I'm going to keep bringing this up. We're going to bring light to a lot of items that I feel need the light on them, no matter how intimidating all you think those being exposed in the light are. I don't give a shit. We're going to go and we're going to talk about it when I get time. I'm going to look into it. We're going to talk about it and we're going to make it popular as we can. Why? How can you even ask me why? How can anybody even ask why? I didn't come here. I came here for the Bigfoot stories. I don't want to know about missing kids. Wrong place, Skippy. Beat it. Wrong place. So, what else? As soon as I get my internet back here, another thing I mentioned earlier, we're going to sit here together. Hopefully, many of you sit here with me. We'll do it live. I don't give a shit. And we're going to play a video on here. We're going to play another video on here from an independent journalist in Germany. We're going to see what she's got to say and her receipts as we, as a community, figure out who is the evil, dark sons of bitches. All right? We are the light, and they are the dark in the shadows. And we are the light and the power, and we're going to bring the light to them. We're going to shine all over them. All right? Don't look away. Don't look away. Look away. You're a pussy. We don't have pussies here. Got it? We don't have pussies here. So there you go. Hopefully, okay, I gotta remember, I gotta find that video of those guys, those independent journalists who took the trek. Maybe even, I might even get them on here, maybe, possibly, and talk to them, because I know when I shared that video of theirs earlier, they commented and said, thanks for sharing it. I don't know how they found out we shared it, unless there's some kind of thing on the YouTube thing that shows you where somebody shares your video, I guess, I don't know. I mean, how will those guys be aware of this channel, right? But anyway, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep hearing the voices from all the people. And when we have time together, we're going to figure out where these kids are, where they went, and who's responsible and who did it. All right? You in? Somebody's got to do it, right? There you go. What do we got left? The decals. She still has them. There's still t-shirts and hats in her store. If you want to, don't have to, but if you want to throw down a couple dollars to help feed some kids here, you can hit the... I don't even know what it's freaking called. Membership or something here? I don't even know where the button is. I don't know. I just know it's there. There's a membership. You can throw in a few bucks that way for even the month of December, or not. If you do, I'll guarantee you it's going to feed some kids. So, there you go. ShareMyStoryHowToHunt.com. And what am I doing now? I'm going to go in our list of hungry... families, children, is absolutely huge. And this is the shitty part. Shitty part is choosing who's going to get it. Right? I mean, it's easy to go grab a couple few a month. That's nothing, but... it sucks. Just sucks that we even have to pick and choose who gets to have all this food. Sucks. But it's good. Making a difference, right? And the one thing too is the children in these homes that we're doing this for, this isn't coming from some global organization. This isn't coming from the pricks who call themselves government to convince the kids they need something from them. This is coming from their community. This is a huge lesson for these children, right? A lesson that's probably been overlooked, left behind. When we do this, these children learn that all this goodness came from their community, right? Their community. So hopefully they will retain that lesson, and then that will spread out through them, and they will know to look for weakness where help's needed, and they will help their community during their lifetime. See where that's going? Right? Saying to Sarah the other day, I go, imagine some kind of government official caught wind that we're feeding all these people and they came to the house to try to stop us. Sarah looks at me and she goes, what would you do? And I go, they came here? I don't know, I might keep them. I might keep them. You know, some asshole, some piece of shit, some absolute low life who has found themselves in a position of influence in the local government here. They are trying to bring forward a motion that you need a permit to have a garage sale. The fuck. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Can't stop me. Can't stop me. Don't look away. We'll be back tomorrow. Look for the link for that video so we can look for the evidence of who's responsible for these kids. All right? And I'll dig it up when I get out here. And I'll put it in the link. I'll put the link in this video somewhere in the description or whatever. All right? We're going to be our own detectives. We're going to figure shit out. Later. You still got yours on? We got a dove. Is it a big one?
It's a big one, Steve.
No way.
Yeah.
Let him go. How's your fish?
Awesome. Running.
Awesome. Don't fall onto the boat. Slowly come over. He's got to come in. Well, that's a big fish.
Yeah, this is a big guy.
Big fishy. Oh, he's a fatty. He's pretty big. Pretty big. What do we got here? You seen this one yet?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one too.
You want to get the net?
Yeah. Hold it slowly from that way. There's one slugger of the double in. Here's the second one. Oh, he's on the hoochie too. Yeah, well, that's a big fatty too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Son of a... Nice fishy, eh?
Awesome.
About a twin to this one, isn't it? Sweet. Successful double to close. Hey?
Nice. Love it.
All right.